Hey guys, it's Al from Total Garble, and today I'd like to talk about a video game. I know, big shocker for the channel. But the thing is, I don't consider myself a review channel by any means. However, this game stuck out to me. You see, growing up, before I picked up my financially unhealthy obsession with collecting Lego, I first started my childhood passion with a trading card game known as Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Is essentially a trading card game, much like Magic the Gathering. However, it kind of does a bit more hand-holding. Each player gets 4,000 or 8,000 life points depending on the duel. Each player should use monsters, spells, or trap cards and an overall strategy to win the game, and the first person to reach 0 life points loses. Naturally, as a nerdy kid, I fell in love with the game, even if I wasn't particularly good at it. I thought the hype was real, I loved the artwork on the cards, and overall it seemed like a lot of fun. So when I eventually moved on from the game to other hobbies, Yu-Gi-Oh! Still held a special place in my heart, even if I wasn't giving them money. And naturally, when I heard they finally ported over a free version to Xbox that didn't take up GTA 5 amounts of space, I was naturally interested. And oh boy do I have things to say about it. And unlike the previous video, this one's going to stay really positive and too script. Though, to be fair, the game is not without its fair share of issues, and those will be brought up. And no, this video is not sponsored by Duel Masters, so I'm not blindlessly shilling, because believe me, like I said, this game does have issues. However, a lot of the things really outweigh those issues in my opinion. So, if you have the space on your hard drive, and you want to take a trip down nostalgia lane, grab a dual disc, place a card in the field, and get ready to No, we're not going to do that. Just get ready to duel or do the review, whatever. Before I get into this, some of my criticisms might venture into the card game itself and not the Xbox port that I want to be reviewing. So I'll try to aim my critiques at the console port and not the game itself. However, some of my criticisms, like I said, will lean into the card game territory. So if that does, I apologize. Let's start out with the things I like about the game before we go into critiques. First off, the game is a free-to-play. Now I know what you're thinking. Alex, why do we care about free-to-play games? Free-to-play is trash. Now true, free-to-play does have a lot of gimmicks and predatory tactics to prey on people with their wallets instead of their gameplay skills. However, this game gives you a good amount of starting material, gems, and crystals that you can unlock gates and decks with. We'll talk about gates in a second. The amount of gems they give you is usually over 1,000 in total, not counting the stuff that you can earn from playing the game itself or dueling. And if you're smart, you can end up buying the Battle Pass free straight out of the gate. Looking at you, Halo! Another thing I like is that the game is smaller and doesn't take up a lot of space, and the updates are very manageable, so it doesn't take all day to upload unless you have potato internet or frontier internet. The tutorial, though very basic, goes with you throughout the whole game, except deck storage, which I don't like that, but we'll get into that more in a bit. However, the tutorial's really nice. It kind of tells you the overall style of the game, how to use different card types from monsters, to spells, to traps, to summons, to ritual summons, fusions, you get the idea. And on top of that, the campaign is really fun because it introduces you to new deck types, play styles, and on top of that, they give you a nice story for each deck that you're introduced to. Even if the story's not important or you'll never care about it, it's just kind of a nice cherry on top of it. The artwork for the campaign is really good, and on top of that, each campaign gives you rewards for playing. Now there's two ways to play the campaign. Obviously there are your standard intro missions, which are like cutscenes from Halo, where you don't do anything but you watch the story, and you'll initially get rewarded for those. Once you actually get into dueling, you'll have your choice of playing with your own custom deck, or playing with what's called a loner deck, which is tied to the campaign. This is to either incentivize you to practice against harder decks that you might not be used to playing, or trying out new decks that you might find out you like down the road. And I kind of like that, for another reason we'll touch on here in a minute. Once you're more familiar with the game, you have what's known as deck storage. They'll give you a starter deck, usually one of 3. I naturally chose the dragon deck because A, it had my boy Blue Eyes White Dragon, and B, dragons are cool. I don't care what you say. That said, you can build multiple decks over time, so you don't have to solely focus on Blue Eyes for the rest of eternity, although some people do. Each deck can manage a different playstyle, whether it be based around ritual summoning, a card type such as Red Eyes, or just being a troll like my buddy, where you just buy weird decks like Ojamas just to mess with people in the long run. And honestly, I like that they offer that variety, even if some of them are very meta or meme-worthy at this point, and we'll get into that in the criticism part. Another thing I like about building your decks is they give you public decks to copy. So let's say you learn about the Danger deck from Campaign, which they just added that Campaign portal. You can type in Danger to public deck search, and when you do, it'll give you a list of different types of Danger decks, and you can copy one over. Now, if you don't have the cards to copy it over, it'll tell you, hey, you're missing these cards. There's essentially 3 ways to get cards in this game. You either earn them, buy them, or craft them using materials. Let's start with buying them. Buying them is like every other free-to-play. You can either play the game and grind for gems, which is actually a bit more fun than your usual grind, or you can pay real money to buy gems from the store. Honestly, I've only ever bought gems once, and that's because they were on sale. And truth be told, a lot of my decks have been built for free. Yes, though there was a grind, at least I appreciate you can earn it through gameplay. The second way to earn cards is through the campaign or through challenges. Some of your challenges will reward you with packs, cards, or even whole starter decks, and this will expand your deck selection, allowing you to try out a variety of new cards and play styles along the way. Now, unfortunately, a big critique I have, and I don't want to move into critiques yet, is that you can't scrap these cards that you earn from campaign, but you can either take it or leave it. There's just a big criticism I have about these cards with quantity, but we'll get into that in a minute. Lastly, you can craft cards. So if you get multiple cards of the same type, or even cards outright that you hate, you can just scrap them for material. There's 3 material types. Normal, which is self-explanatory. Rare, also self-explanatory. Then there's super rare, which are very potentially deadly cards, but they don't pack the most kick or don't feel as broken. And then there's ultra rare cards, which are cards that you want in your deck, usually, because they're going to do a wallop. However, because of the power of these cards, they're a bit harder to come by. The crafting system's alright, but I do have some fair shares of criticisms about it. But like I said, we're saving the things I don't like for later. Now let's talk about the multiplayer and things I like about it. It's pretty fun, but there is kind of a multiplayer cap, and that's in the critiques. But a thing I like about the multiplayer is you usually get rewarded in some way for playing. Even if you lose, you get a little bit of XP. But winning gives you good rewards. On top of that, they bring in things like events, which are really nice because they force you to try out new play styles and decks, or maybe use something different using existing cards you already have. And I really like that. Plus, if you lose in multiplayer events, you don't affect your ranked score, which is really nice. Plus, these events usually end up having a ton of rewards by themselves just for playing the event or going through it. A big thing I know people aren't always a fan of is crossplay, but I kind of like it with this game. Several friends and I disagree on this, but honestly I think crossplay is fine, as I believe that there's a lot of people I'd like to reach out to and play with on PC, even if those are usually the people playing with meta decks. However, I will say a big thing I like about it compared to other games with crossplay is there's not a lot of ability to cheat or hack the game, mostly because they know that owning cards or getting cards is the bread and butter of the game, versus Call of Duty Warzone, who couldn't care less if their equipment or game is broken. So naturally, they crack down hard on anyone that tries to tamper. There's a friend of mine, I won't name names, who tried to make a secondary account just to buy alternative decks for free gems, which I'm not going to say if that's the right or wrong thing. And believe me, they are after him like the Unabomber, okay? They are not letting it go. So take that as you will. The last things I want to mention that I like are a bit minor to some people, but really I overall enjoy them and think they do serve a bigger purpose. The game asks for feedback every few months. Now, this could easily be a PR stunt, and they may not even look at these recommendations, because I'm not sure if I've personally seen any of the recommendations put into play. However, they do give you free gems just for going out of your way to do these. So honestly, I could see them doing that and using these for real purposes, being that gems equals money to them. Hey guys, I just realized at this point in the video that I keep mistaking gems and crystals. So from here on out, if I say gems, that's going to be the microtransaction that they use in-game to buy cards. And I'm going to use the word tokens for the campaign. So we'll talk about that more in a second. I like that the background changes with attacks and as a progression of the match. I know that might not seem like much, but it kind of does a little bit of build-up, kind of like old Left 4 Dead 2 animations, where when zombies die, they might stumble backwards or fall, or maybe they might interact weird with little other things in the environment, or even other zombies. And I like that it does that because it's just kind of a little bit of extra flair that makes the game pop. Now I know that there's another game, like a $40 version of this game, where I don't think there's as much free-to-play aspect to it, and what you get is what you get. But honestly, for free-to-play, they really didn't have to include this, and I like that they did. But I don't know if the $40 version introduced that or not, so to be fair, they could have easily have just ripped that from the $40 version. Nonetheless, I still enjoy that. It just adds a bit of pressure knowing that you and your opponent are both taking damage, and seeing each side of the field getting cracked up or broken in by boulders really says, oh no, I really got to get my stuff together. The last big thing that I really like, and though it is minor and you probably don't think about it, is the soundtrack. Honestly, I could go on about how much they went into it with the soundtrack, but I'm going to let the soundtrack talk for itself. This might change in case YouTube strikes the video down for copyright, and I'll leave links to places you can find the soundtrack for this game, but honestly, just listen to it. I don't know a game that goes that hard into its music outside of Halo back in the day and Call of Duty World at War. It's really great. I love that it changes with the environment or the play style, and you just feel so into it depending on the match type. Sometimes it feels like you're training against a buddy in the field, or other times it feels like the weight of the world is on you in this mystical chasm. I really enjoy that, and the music is 10 out of 10 in my opinion. Alright, now let's get to the more spicy part of the video. I'm going to talk about the things I don't like. Now keep in mind some of these critiques are minor, but some of them are very major. So I'm going to try to address the major things first and then deal with the nitpick stuff at the end. But I only want to do that because I feel like the things that need fixed are the ones that need addressed first. So the thing I don't like is that certain cards are completely not in the game and even forbidden. I think it's Pot of Greed, which is the green one, that is out of the game. Now I know they did that because it is technically broken, and I get that, but just put it in the forbidden cards list. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe it is in the game, but I've searched everywhere. I only know this because my buddies and I tried to build Duelist Island decks or Battle City decks based off old card lists, but because of the type of cards, or it maybe being a Japanese exclusive, we couldn't finish these decks completely. And it was really unfortunate because we wanted that authentic experience, so we had to do a lot of substituting. However, most of the catalog is pretty complete, so that's just kind of a nitpick near the end. Another thing I hate is that certain deck builds and cards in general are just an all-out meme. Now that might be with the card game itself, because of how inflated the points and effect systems have become over the years, but in multiplayer, I wouldn't be surprised if you go an entire match without seeing either a Max C or an Ash Blossom being used. And that's not even touching the different deck types that you're going to see over and over and over again, such as Dragon Maids, Galaxy Eyes, you get the picture. So it's a bit annoying, and especially in higher ranks when those are the only things you go against and they're built so meta, it just makes you really deterred from playing the multiplayer. But we'll talk about that more in a bit when you get higher in the multiplayer. Essentially, you progress from bronze to silver to gold and eventually platinum. Now, I've never reached platinum, and at one point I was in gold. However, your rank resets each season, and to be honest, and I know I'm not the only one that does this, people kind of want their rank to reset, because once you get into that highest rank, you're kind of skill capped, because you're just going against other builds that aren't even remotely doable. I think when I got into gold at one point, even with solidly built decks, I just kept getting slapped by people in multiplayer. I'd say maybe 1 out of 5 games I'd win. And at that point, you actually do go back in multiplayer status, which is a bit annoying, but I digress. And that could just be with how the game's built itself. However, I kind of wish they'd just put restrictions on Ash Blossoms and Max C's, but that's just me being a nitpick, and I know people really enjoy these cards. And as for the deck builds themselves, I have nothing against it, but good lord, you see them so often that anytime I see an elemental hero deck, or even like in some sort of underwater deck, it's refreshing because it's different versus an Eldritch or a Gravekeepers or something that I know, oh, I've already seen this 8 times today. Speaking of multiplayer, I hate that there's no way to contact people you meet in multiplayer. Now, I know that they've probably done this for a couple of reasons. One is not everyone plays on Xbox, and 2 is that they probably do this to deter people from rage spamming people in multiplayer or telling them death threats or something. However, There are times I really want to message people in multiplayer and be a good sport, saying, hey, that was a good duel, even though I got my ass kicked. Or maybe I might want to ask, hey, what kind of deck type are you using? It was really effective, and I'd love to build mine similar to that. You know, just innocent stuff. You're always going to have trolls out there, but I don't think an in-game communication system is impossible. The only way you can really communicate with these players if you don't know them already is to follow them. I don't know any way to communicate with them outside of this, and I've looked through all the player interface stuff. So if there is a way, please let me know in the comments. However, I think even if you implement this and you have people that decide to troll or be toxic, you can just put a block and report button. And if you get reported so many times, take away their ability to communicate for a while. Or permanently, that's up to the developer. However, I think that this would be really helpful, especially with people you meet, and allow people to branch out and make new friends, as I feel like the social aspect of this game is very lacking, and that's part of what makes Yu-Gi-Oh! Magical, is reaching out and finding new people in the community. Right, let's get into the last of multiplayer type stuff before I move into stuff with the campaign and deck storage. So, a thing I'm not a fan of is they need to fix their custom game lobbies. What I mean is there's private duel sessions that you can set up. I say private loosely, because they're not part of the main multiplayer, and it doesn't affect your rank. However, this is also a pain in the butt. Yes, you can play with friends, and yes, you're really not restricted, but it's just kind of annoying where I enter multiplayer custom games with my friend, and one of these things happens. First is that when you enter, there's no guarantee you're going to set it up completely private. It's not like Halo custom games where you set up a private session. They have a thing where you can hop into lobbies automatically, even if you set the room comment to this room is private, and people will still jump in. Now, there might be a way to kick them, but I feel bad for doing that, and honestly, they just need a way to just stop this outright. If there is a way, let me know, but honestly, I haven't seen it, and it's really annoying when I want to set up a room for just 2 people, and some random comes in and refuses to go, so I either have to leave the room entirely or find a way to kick them, and I just don't like that. Another thing I don't like about custom game matches is you do not get rewarded for them whatsoever. Now, I know they probably do this to stop things like boosting and all that, like you probably saw in MW2 free-for-all days with tactical insertions, where you just let your friend grind out the better stuff. But to be fair, I think that's not the entire percentage of players, and even if you added a limited amount of rewards compared to multiplayer, or even a few challenges, it would still be nice. I love playing against my friends, and the fun of the game is enough to bring us in from time to time. But there are times we really kind of want that extra je ne sais quoi added to it, you know? It feels really good when you smash your buddy's face into the ground with your amazing deck, and then all of a sudden you get a whopping 100 points for a daily challenge of winning the match. Now, obviously that could easily be farm gems and it's money out of their pocket, but it's just kind of something on my end, and I wish they'd give you just a little bit of reward for playing custom games. Even Halo Master Chief Collection in their custom games lobbies gives you few challenges out of the weeklies that count towards progression. One of them is just killing enemies in general, and it's not the most amount of points or level. So I think they could do something like this for custom games, but that's just me. The last thing for custom games, and I mentioned this previously, is that joining is very wonky, but leaving is also equally as wonky. Let's say I'm still in a room and my buddy invites me. I have to go in and manually leave the room instead of being given an option just to, hey, you're about to leave the room and join your buddy's room. Are you sure you want to do that? And it's kind of just a nitpick on my end. Yeah, it's just going back. But it's like a quality of life thing that I think easily could be fixed. So I'm going to move on to deck storage and the things I didn't like about it. A big one is that I don't like that there's a lack of tutorial with your deck storage and managing your deck. Now, they might have fixed that since I've last checked, because it's been a while since I first started up Yu-Gi-Oh! On this version. However, it was a lot of trial and error, and eventually that ended up costing me a couple of very good cards that I had to go out of my way and get points or material for to make them. And I feel like that's a bit predatory that they go above and beyond for the tutorial and campaign, but they don't actually help you out when it comes to managing or building your deck. I had to find all this out through trial and error, and it was very inconvenient, in my opinion. It doesn't have to be the most hand-holdy, but even just basic stuff like learning how to scrap cards for materials or copy over a deck would be really helpful. Another thing I absolutely loathe is that there are certain cards you cannot scrap. Now, I'm okay with that if there are cards tied to campaign or cards tied to certain progression you make in your challenges and you're not allowed to scrap those, fine, I get it. Those are kind of like your own little trophies. However, the thing is, you can't use more than 3 types of cards in a deck ever, unless they're like specific cards, in which case even less of those are available. Monster Reborn, right? Take the Monster Reborn card. It's a good card and it's very powerful, but you're only allowed 1 of those in the deck. And if I ever for some reason got a secondary Monster Reborn or multiple Monster Reborns in the game, I can't scrap those cards because it's an integral part of the game and they made that card a non-scrappable. So I might have multiple monsters that I get from a variety of packs or the campaign, and it goes over that 3 monster limit in my inventory, and I really want those resources, especially with how hard it is to get ultra rares, and I can't scrap them. It's really annoying, and I just wish that they'd let you scrap the duplicates. Like, once you reach 3 of a card, that's it. Everything else goes to scrap, even with your regular cards, because if you can't use 3 or more of a card, then what's the point, in my opinion? Like, why would you have 8 Blue Eyes White Dragons in your inventory if you can easily swap them to other decks and use only 3? I don't know, but that's just me. These last 2 are just kind of minor nitpicks, so take them with a grain of salt. But I feel like after a while, the grind for points is a bit challenging and building decks becomes nearly impossible, that you have to revert to what my friend does and make an alternative account, which I don't advocate doing. They will ban you. However, that said, it just feels a bit too grindy. Now, I have nothing against playing the game and earning what you want, but after a while, once you've gotten to gold tier in multiplayer, which would inevitably happen if you just kept climbing the ladder or getting up that staircase like Rocky with those kids, you're eventually going to kind of hit a multiplayer wall. In Halo, they kind of try to balance it, where they put you with a variety of casuals and sweats, but being that it's a 1v1, obviously they're not going to put you against a bronze player, but when every other gold player, or let alone platinum player you go against, is a dragon-made deck, or an Eldritch deck that you don't have a counter for yet, it's really annoying, and I'm not a fan of that. I just think maybe they should change that, and I do have change recommendations or things to help, but I'm saving that for the end. So if you can't farm gems that way, then the other way to earn points is through challenges, which is good, but eventually you use up your challenges, and the challenges are either so grindy or based around multiplayer that they kind of become also impossible to access. And without access to more materials to create cards or more gems, you end up starting to scrap things that you actually like in your deck, trying to build new decks. And that can be very damaging and also a bit predatory in my opinion. I feel like ultra rare crafting material is a bit harder to get a hold of. Even if I buy 10 decks, there's like maybe a chance that there's like 1 ultra rare, sometimes 2. Now, I get why they do this. It's like every other loot box container opener, which is fine. But I wish there were just maybe a few challenges specifically that rewarded you with ultra rare points specifically instead of gems. Because there are times I want to build decks and I need 3 ultra rare cards for a group, not even counting other groups in that deck that are all ultra rares. And to get a hold of those is a pain in the butt. And I just wish that there's maybe different alternative ways to get a hold of ultra rare points. I get why they don't do it again, but it's just kind of a bit of a pain and a bit of a wall when it comes to experiencing Yu-Gi-Oh! And trying to get the cards you really need or want. And lastly, I feel like customization is very limited. Yes, there are options to customize your board, card sleeves, and even your avatar or player icon, but they feel so limited. There's like a selection of 10 monsters that you can choose from for your icon, tops, counting challenges, and battle pass, or anime characters. And then as for your avatar, there's a couple of different monsters, some of them noticeable, some of them are a bit obscure, but they're not really the greatest selection. I mean, for God's sakes, one of them is a pair of roller skates. Like, if I'm going against a guy and I want to show off that I've really played the game, why on God's green am I doing roller skates? Now, it might be something with the anime, I don't know, but give me something cute, maybe like a winged Karibo, or maybe like a Lin Karibo, or even, I don't know, a baby Red Eyes Black Dragon. Even if it's not the most intimidating, I wish it was just something, because I'm kind of tired of staring at my player icons and seeing the same Karibo, or troll-looking guy, or whatever the heck is used as your player icon. Maybe add more people from the anime too. Like, I gotta support my boy Joey, or my main man Kaiba, you know? So there is one more thing I want to touch on before I go into what I would do to personally fix and my overall rating and recommendation for Yu-Gi-Oh! Is neutral territory stuff. Now there's only one item on here because it's a bit of a pain in the butt, but it's also something I kind of like, so hear me out. I like that each gate in the campaign requires tokens to unlock. It's really fun because, in one opinion, it does force you to play with loner decks, as those are the only ways to get those tokens. However, it is very challenging at times because it feels like the loner decks are just bashing your head against the wall, just trying to get these tokens that you can use to unlock this one gate, and it can feel very out of the way and backpedally. But that's also part of the journey too, is that you do learn about these other deck types and what tricks they might pull up their sleeves, so it's kind of a give or take. However, some gate requirements are a bit crazier than others. There was one new gate they added that required like a lot of different types of tokens, and I think they reversed that change. I don't know about that gate specifically, but they did eventually go back and make it so any new gates are just one specific token type, unless it offers a variety of different matches that you can get rewards from. And on top of that, tokens can't be bought, so this isn't like a predatory way for you to like spend money to get more tokens to get more gates opened. You actually have to play the game, and I really enjoy that aspect. I feel like any time a game gives you an option, even if it's a grind, not to automatically go to the store and buy it, or giving you only the option to go to the store and buy it, is a real nice change of pace. So this video is running a bit long, so I'm going to try to wrap it up here with a nice bow. But these are the things I'd like to fix, or at least see Konami try to fix with this. I think events are a cool idea, but maybe include playlists, much like Halo. I know I reference that a lot, but I think they really got their multiplayer down solid, at least in the old games. But yeah, add different playlist types, maybe a Battle City playlist where you can only use certain gen cards to play, or maybe make a playlist that is Dragons only playlist. You don't have to do a variety because I get splitting the player base could potentially hurt the game, but I think it would give a nice incentive to try something new that isn't just going up against meta builds or meme builds or even just cards that you see every single time when you play. And I think that change-up would be a nice refresher, as it would allow me to take a break. Don't have it affect your overall rank and limit the amount of points you can get from it so that you don't completely kill ranked, but I think it would be really nice, and obviously keep your events with the rewards they have. I mentioned this earlier, but I wish there was a way to earn extra UR rewards, and a way I could see doing that is give us the option to cash in our other rarity tokens. Now here's what I mean by that. Out of the normal rare, super rare, and ultra rare tokens, ultra rare is obviously the one you're going to have the least amount of usually, and rare and normal you hoard like a cat lady. However, I wish there was a way you could convert like 1,000 normal tokens or rare tokens or whatever and give you like 10 ultra rare. Yeah, it's not the most fair, and it would still give them that incentive to buy packs, but at least it would give me an alternative, because there's a lot of times I'm just hoarding normal and rare points and they're never used, and I can't use them or convert them for anything outside of rare or normal cards that I've already made, and I don't feel like making others. Gears of War 4 did this really well, where no matter what you scrapped or burned out of the loot packs, it was all one currency that you could put back and craft towards anything you wanted. And though I'm not saying they have to completely go this route, at least give us the tools to like recycle points or reuse points that we don't really need. Please fix joining custom games. Give us a private server specifically, don't just give us a room comment, because I'd like to play with friends, and I'd like to easily leave old lobbies without backtracking like I have a ball and chain attached to my leg. Also, joining through the Xbox is a bit wonky, and I get that could be because of crossplay, but maybe look into trying to fix that or stabilize that, because there's times I invite my friends from the party, and not all of them will accept or get the invite, and it's insane. It's just like, why can't I not do this? It works with almost every other game. Now, I get there's the friends portal in the game itself, which is good, and I like that, but it just doesn't feel the most user-friendly, as you really have to go in, invite them to a game, go to the specific icon, versus, oh, hey, I'm just going to go to my party, invite all, and whoever wants to join can. You see the difference? Add more unique customization options. I think I already mentioned that, but maybe do this in the Battle Pass or with challenges for events to show off that you worked really hard or that you kicked a lot of butt. You know, just saying. I think it'd be really cool if I saw someone that went against a bunch of people, and maybe they have Slifer the Sky Dragon or Obelisk the Tormentor, and I think, oh, shoot, this guy has gone against a lot of people, he means business. It kind of shows rewards without it being solely based around who has the biggest credit card. And I do like the Battle Pass. It is friendly, but it feels very basic, as a lot of the rewards are just gems and rarity points, which isn't bad, but when that's all it is, it kind of feels a bit stale. Like, oh, it's a few more stuff I can craft, but, you know, maybe, like, spread out quarterly rewards. They do it at the halfway point and the final point, depending on if you buy the Battle Pass, but you do get a new player icon or a new avatar, which is nice, but maybe do it quarterly instead of it being half and final / locked to the final Battle Pass. For the free Battle Pass, give us the option of 2, and then for the full Battle Pass, add an extra 2. So that way, if you buy the Battle Pass, you can get upwards of 6 icons or avatars, depending on what they put in there. I think it would just be a nice change of pace, because it would just kind of give me an incentive to grind for maybe a unique item. And you could obviously transfer the gems or take out a few gems, depending on how you want to inflate or deflate the Battle Pass for this. But that's just a recommendation. And like I said with the game message system, give us an availability to message players in multiplayer. Obviously, you're going to have your trolls, but there's a lot of people I think that would like to communicate and reach out. Now, there might be a bit of a language barrier, being that a lot of the people on here that are not English speakers are from the other side of the globe, which is fair, because it's very popular over there, but maybe add a translation button too, and they could always try to like work it out. But obviously, if you don't like the person you're communicating with, you can always just block them and report them. But I think allowing messaging would allow people to make new friends, try out new card builds that maybe you saw in a match. That's just my 2 cents. I will say that the multiplayer is fun, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Is fun. There's a lot of content, and for a free game, it does actually have my recommendation. And as free games on the market, it's one of the better ones in terms of the amount of effort they put into what you can buy, level up, the music, the gameplay, anti-cheat. It's really good. And though it has its flaws, I would say that they're minor enough or doable enough or being looked into enough that it's not as head-splitting as something like Call of Duty Warzone. I'd overall, out of 5, give the game like 3.5 to 4 stars. Probably closer to 4 stars. But it's a solid game. And if you want to try it out, I do recommend it to people that are really interested, even if it's a little bit. It's a free game, and you honestly have nothing to lose by downloading it, and you get a bunch of free points. Like I said, this isn't shilling. This is just me saying what I liked about it and what I'd recommend to people. And if you hate it, you can get rid of it. And unlike other games, it doesn't take you forever to download, and the updates honestly don't take that long either. I will say lastly, however, that the multiplayer skill gap does make things a bit challenging, and the fact that you go against meta decks might deter you unless you have friends or if you've already beaten the campaign. But there's a couple of alternative ways to get around specifically seeing meta decks, especially with events, playing campaign for rewards, or going against friends. But I do think they need to work on stuff with the multiplayer, because I'd say after like a month or 2 months, it's very easy to get burned out on the game, and I don't blame people, which is why I suggest the 3.5 rating. But I digress. That's my full recommendation and review of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Masters. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. I had a good time making this, even if I got my butt kicked a few times to try to get footage. It was overall a great time, and it was really nice to kind of try to make something a bit more positive and not as blood pressure inducing as the other video. If you like the video, please feel free to leave a like. If you disagree with something or you want to talk about something, leave it in the comments, and I will get around to looking at it if YouTube ever notifies me. And if you like what the channel has, please feel free to subscribe. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do with the channel, but I figured this was another video I just wanted to get out there. So thank you again. I had a good time. Take care, and I'll catch you around. Bye.